tips. I'm going to be giving, so in this video I'm going to be giving tips on how to actually pass the SQE 1 exam in 2025 and what you need to do, especially on the exam day. Tips that saved my life and tips that can save yours too. I mentioned before now, the SQE exams holds twice a year, SQE 1. So it holds in January and in July. So in my time, I wrote in January, preparing during the winter, like during the cold season. And then I wrote the exam in the cold, like during the cold season. But the hall that we used was obviously warm. The heating was okay. But I'm just saying that imagine preparing in winter for this exam. Like, I think I envy those people that, you know, usually write in July, because obviously in July there's sun, or if there's no sun, at least the place is, you know, bright. It's not as dark as you have it in January. But either ways, we passed, so we're not scared. So if you want to write it in January, that's still fine. If you're not writing it in January and you're writing in July, well, that's still good for you. The first thing I want to say with the SQE is you need to familiarize yourself with the SQE 1 before you even say you want to write the exam. Like, you know, usually, and I've mentioned this in my past video, to write the exam for January, you need to be able to at least, you know, get some months of study going. So for me, I studied up to 6 months before the exam, and I was studying part-time because obviously I was working full-time, so my study was part-time, but I studied longer on Saturdays and Sundays. But during the week, I just had few hours to study. I needed enough time to be able to familiarize myself with the SQE 1, the syllable itself. So I used a course provider, and this is no news. I've said it before that I use the QLTS. And while I do not recommend any particular SQE provider, I have actually made a checklist. In previous videos, I created a checklist, and it's free. And this checklist has actually, if I was getting like £1 for every time someone downloads my free checklist, I would have been a millionaire or a billionaire by now, because you guys, so many of you have been downloading this checklist. And obviously the checklist is still free, so if you want to download it, I'm going to put it in the caption below or in the description below for you guys to download. Okay, that goes to say that I do not recommend any particular SQE provider. In previous videos, I had mentioned that the SRA website, on the website you will see different course providers that you can choose from. I created a study plan for myself. I was able to follow my study plan, even if I wasn't following every day, but I made sure to follow the study plan, and I practiced a lot of mocks. Okay, so I practiced, and I feel like I didn't even practice enough. So because as at that time I felt like, oh, I needed to like cover more mocks. But one thing I would say is, if you go to the SRA website, you see sample questions on the SRA website. You can start with that, you know, the website, to practice questions. And those questions are just sample questions. It doesn't mean that the questions will actually come out in the exam, but they are sample questions to help you, like, it gives you that, like, that exam situation of the SQE, so how the SQE exam, you know, runs like. So the next thing you want to do is to make like mind maps to remind yourself of things, and like little summaries. So for me, the QLTS had summarized notes. So I used the summarized notes as my notes. I printed them out because they were not printed, so I had to print them out, and then I used it as my revision notes. And then I started writing, like scribbling some things that I wanted to remember, and then I reduced it, like did a little bit of notes, like note making, but I wouldn't call it note making because I didn't do it for all the subjects. I just did a little bit of it on one other, like a diary that I had. So I did that, and you know, I then used that during the week of the exam. During the week of the exam, you want to make sure that you're not, you know, over reading, because that's one thing that I think I did that I would advise someone not to do. Don't start over reading. Instead, during the week of the exam, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks for the exam, you should be doing more of mocks. You should be practicing, because the exam is timed, and you're writing 90 questions, right, in the morning, and 90 questions in the evening, and then the next day too, when you go, like the following week, you will write 90 questions in the morning and 90 questions in the afternoon. And one important thing I would emphasize is to stay healthy. Like, try to stay healthy during this period of exam prep and stuff like that. Try to eat healthy, try to also get enough sleep. I know, right? I know so many of us, we fall short in this area, because we'll be like, oh no, I have exams to write, and you want to, like, oh, I have exams, I can't sleep, I can't do this. But you just try and sleep, like, take regular breaks, take time to get rest, and sometimes just shift your mind away from the exam. I know it's not easy, but just do anything that makes you happy, and just shift your your mind, something good, right, that makes you happy, and then shift your mind away from the exam, so that you can be able to come back refreshed, and then start all over again. Yeah, because it's not over until it's over. I'm going to be talking about the exam day, what you should do on the exam day. Where you are traveling, try and make sure to travel like 2 days before the exam. Don't travel even 1 day before the exam. I would advise 2 days, just in case of anything. Maybe there's a train delay, or just cancellations and stuff like that. There are so many things that could go wrong, that could happen, right? So just make sure to give yourself time. So the least should be 2 days before the exam. Do not travel on the day of the exam. Make sure to be at least 15 minutes walk from the exam hall, or wherever they're using your center. Make sure to at least be like 15 or 20 minutes away from that place by the day before. That actually helps you to be calm. It helps you to not rush. Okay, and then another thing is to, on that day, arrive early and arrive with your documents, because I think on that day you need to carry like a proof of identity. So I think I carry my BRP or my passport, something like that. But you usually get an email before the exam, series of emails actually before the exam, telling you what you need to bring, what you need to carry, and just stuff like that. So make sure to read your emails carefully, and make sure to carry your documents while traveling. Secondly, make sure to arrive at the exam center early. So arrive early enough. So I think usually the exam is 9 a.m. So at least be there before 9. At least by 8 o'clock or 8:20, you should be there, just to make sure that you locate the area, locate the place, because sometimes you may have not even gotten to the place before, so you just need to locate the place. Another thing you want to do on that day is to read instructions carefully and to follow instructions. So when you're told to do something, please do it. Do not fight it. Do not start questioning, except obviously something wrong. But apart from that, just follow instructions, read instructions. And then time management. Time, at this point, time is not your friend. You're writing 90 questions for about 3 hours, even up to 3 hours, but within that range. And when writing the exam, you will encounter questions that are like scenario-based questions, where you will need to read like a long paragraph or 2 or 3 paragraphs. You read like a scenario question, and then they will now give you questions to answer. So my top tip will be to make sure to read carefully. I know some persons will say read the questions before you read the answer. There's sometimes where I practice that, and then there were sometimes where I just read the scenario. But I think to be better organized, it's just good to read the questions first. It just gives you a quick glance of what the scenario is all about. But just read the questions as quickly as possible, and then go to the scenario and read. Now, where you're having issues with maybe getting the right answer or stuff like that, one thing you need to even know is that the SQE is not even about getting the right answer. It's about getting the best answer, because up to 2 answers might actually be correct, but what you need is the best amongst those two that are right. So you see where that can be very confusing, but if you've been practicing enough, you should be able to, answer your questions well enough, to help you pass. My pro tip there is don't waste time on any question. So any question that any question that I saw that I was struggling with, I just left it, or what I did was I just clicked on the particular thing, the one that was just like close to what I'm thinking about. Just clicked on it and I left. And then there was an option to flag it, so there's a flag where you can just click on. What it does is it flags the question for you, and it helps you when you're going back. You don't need to start scrolling down to that question. You just need to go to your page, your sheets, and then you see the questions that you had flagged. So you're able to now go back to those flagged questions and not going back to all the questions altogether. But if you have the time, you can go back to all the questions, but I doubt you have the time to go back to all the questions, because the time it goes so fast, so quickly, that you will be so surprised. Like, we just started the exam, like, why am I ending this exam so soon? One way to manage your time is during your practice. Always a time reading. Anytime I was doing my mocks, so there are times where I finished before the time, or even maybe I didn't finish before. It was just like a way of me practicing time management. So if you can practice time management with your mocks, you find it that on the exam day it will actually be better, right, to manage the time too. You find yourself managing your time better. Do not panic, manage your time, and make sure that you've been able to cover your syllabus. If you'd like to book a call with me to talk to me about anything related to maybe the SQE or career in the UK, or just life in the UK, you guys know you can book that call with me in the description. The link is in the description. I'm going to see you in my next video. Okay.